this video, I'm going to be talking about what is going to happen to UK house prices. Now, if you find it useful in any way, please make sure you like this video, but also hit that subscribe button because I do update these videos every month as to what's going on with the property market. Now, I've put a link in the notes of this video to an article on the Main to the Masses website, which we update regularly about UK house prices. I'm going to run through that in this particular video. So I'm going to jump straight across to that article. You can see it here, what is going to happen to UK house prices. Now, one thing to bear in mind, that the thing that impacts the value of your property is going to be a whole host of factors, some of them local. Interest rates are going to have a big impact, supply and demand, and the overall health of the economy. But I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you definitively what will happen to UK house prices, but what we can do is look at recent data and see what's been going on with house prices to give an idea, a steer of what might potentially happen in the near future. So I'm going to look at 4 indices here. Now, the main one is the UK House Price Index, and it's the most accurate of the various house price indices that I'm going to talk about, and that's because it's compiled from data sourced from HM Land Registry and other government sources. So it's actually about data relating to sales. Now, this data only goes up to August because there is a time lag. So the most recent data that we have is up until August 2023. And you can see there that the monthly change was 0.3%, but the annual change was 0.2%. So there is a suggestion that the house price rises are falling according to, or not as great according to this data, but there is a lag. So you're going to come on and see the more up-to-date data. So Nationwide, for example, produced their Nationwide House Price Index, and it's calculated from their own data on mortgage approvals. You can see the details in the notes there. If you look at on screen, you can see that what we've been seeing is a steady fall in house prices. So we had 0.2%, the monthly change I'm talking about in July, and then we had minus 0.8%, but the monthly change has started to slow, and actually we've seen an increase in October, and it means that the annual change in house prices is now minus 3.3%, which is actually better than we saw in September if we take the annualized number. Moving on to the Halifax House Price Index. Now, this is compiled from their own database of roughly 300,000 mortgage approvals, and we're seeing a similar trend as we saw with a Nationwide. So you can see there we saw the monthly change accelerating to the downside. We've got to minus 1.8%, which means that we were seeing the annual change in house prices. We're seeing a fall of 4.5%, and it actually got to 4.7% in September. But looking at October, we've seen an uptick in house prices of 1.1%, which means the annual change has now dropped, if that's the best way to describe it, to minus 3.2%. So it's actually improved. So it suggests that the market is finding a bit of stability, but Halifax actually think that this is down to supply rather than demand. So there's less supply of houses in the market, which is providing that upward pressure on house prices, so stopping them tumbling. It's not because of buyer demand, so that's important to bear in mind. Now, if we move on to the Rightmove House Price Index, now this is an index that's compiled from the data on the Rightmove portal, so it's more of a reflection of what the asking price is for houses when they're put on the market. So you can see there's been a steady fall up until August, but then we had a positive month of 0.4%, and then in October we saw 0.5%. That's suggesting we're seeing an increase in house prices. So does that mean that we're seeing confidence returning to the market from sellers? Now, in reality, Rightmove has said that this is actually the lowest number for October, 0.5%, the lowest number since 2008 for October. And actually, over the last 20 years, the average number is 1.4%. So this time of year, you do typically see an uptick in house prices. So it just shows you, although that looks like good news, it's not as good as it has been historically on average. So again, what we're seeing here is a bit of realism from sellers, where they're probably putting their houses on the market for a more reasonable price rather than having to cut them. Now, that's probably because of the data which suggests that if you get people interested in your property early on, you're much more likely to sell it. So there you go. There's an interesting dynamic there, that there seems to be signs of stability, but actually it's probably in reality being driven by a lack of supply in the market, and actually sellers being a little bit more realistic if they're needing to sell their house price. Now, I do talk on here what is driving the changes in house prices. You can read that at your own leisure. But one thing to bear in mind, with interest rates pushing higher since December 2021, we are now at a level that's quite restrictive. Historically, that has usually been met with a significant fall in house prices. We had that in the 90s. You'll see that there were house price falls of about 20%. That might not happen this time around, but just bear that in mind. We are potentially at the peak. That's what the market is thinking about the base rates. So it'll be interesting to see how the market reacts going into 2024. So if you found that useful in any way, do make sure you hit that like button, but also subscribe to the channel, because as I said, I will keep updating these videos, and you can find a link to that article in the notes of this video.